home and been able to have meetings from home and things like that. So yeah, it's gonna be very different. But I think a networking thing like that would be good. We did a quiz. I've done a couple of quizzes over Zoom so far.
Oh, nice. Well, I hope it involves some karaoke as well. I heard that you know, there have been firms that have virtual karaoke, so
that would be great. There's a lag on it though. We had a family the other day, and we were trying. My brother plays music, and my partner Andrew plays music as well, and we were all trying to play music and sing at the same time, but we were all times.
Yeah,
so it didn't work.
Blame the internet.
Yeah,
Blame the internet. It's not your fault. Okay, well, I think it is 3:03, so it's probably a good time to start. I think we also
Helen from Lettuce Hub. Can you will you be able to share that on Facebook?
What was that?
I already shared the link, didn't I?
No, I mean like share the live stream on live on Facebook. Can you do that?
On more,
right.
they have a function that I showed you before.
I click on more and I just can't see it. I don't have that option at all.
You might be able to put it up after. If you record it, you could be able to put it up after.
Look, share. Right. Okay. Maybe is this the one? Done.
Click more, and then you'll be able to see it live on Facebook.
I don't see anything. Sorry, guys. If anyone sees it, can you share it?
Only you can see the option.
I don't. Sorry.
Maybe you can upload it on YouTube.
Yeah, maybe it's I'm not sure. Maybe it's an iPad thing. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, I'm recording it, so hopefully that's gonna work.
Great.
Right. So I think we have roughly 20-30 people online at the moment, so that's great. Let's start. First of all, welcome everyone to this live stream session with Lettuce Hub. And my name is Ning Huang, or Helen Huang, and I think many of you have already spoken to me before or have listened to me before. And I'm one of the co-founders of Lettuce Hub. I also work as a manager in the corporate banking department at Bank of Ireland based in London. Now, the topic today is going to be on networking. We all know that networking is very important, whether it is to a student who is looking to launch a career, or to yourself as you are trying to develop your career further. So even at this stage of my career, I still feel that networking is very important for me. But the question really, for me, the real question is how to network effectively. How do you create those kind of relationships that could last for long term and could actually be beneficial to both sides for the long term? So how do you go about doing that? Especially when you are at university and you don't actually have a lot of access to people telling you how to do that. And so today we're going to try to address that question. And before we start, I'm going to kind of run through a couple of things from a technical perspective, and I'm going to also speak in Vietnamese just to make sure that our listeners know of some of the interaction tools that we have today. So we have today launched Slido. This session has its Slido correspondent number, which is 42214. What you want to do is you want to access that website, which has the link that we have already posted on the page, but you can also enter sli.do that's sli.do. And enter the number 42214, that is 42214, in order to ask questions to ourselves. And of course, you can always leave your questions in the chat box of Zoom. And I'm going to repeat this in Vietnamese. Cảm ơn các bạn đã tham gia vào buổi ngày hôm nay. Thì hôm nay có một cái function mà bọn mình giới thiệu, đó là Slido, đó là sli.do sli.do. Nếu các bạn nhấn vào cái trang web này và các bạn nhấn vào số là 42214 thì các bạn có thể đặt câu hỏi cho chúng mình mà không cần phải để lại tên, bởi vì là các bạn có thể để ở định dạng là anonymous. Thì nếu các bạn có thể sử dụng Slido thì các bạn có thể sử dụng nó. Ngoài ra thì cái Slido hôm nay cũng sẽ rất là tốt, bởi vì là bọn mình sẽ có một vài câu hỏi được đặt theo dạng poll. được theo dạng survey ấy, để cho các bạn trả lời, thì các bạn hãy cố gắng vào slide đâu để có thể tham gia vào những cái câu hỏi poll ngày hôm nay. Và cuối cùng là nếu như các bạn cảm thấy là muốn đặt câu hỏi ngay trực tiếp thì các bạn cũng có thể để câu hỏi ở trong mục chat box của Zoom. Okay, so we've run through some of the technical details for today, and so let's start. Well, first of all, let me actually basically roll out a question on the live poll. And the first question for our audience members would be, do you like networking? And the two options are, yes, please, and hell no, I hate it. And so I'm going to start now. Do you like networking? Right. So with that, I'm going to ask the question to yourselves. And so Helen, first of all, welcome. Would you like to say a few things about yourself, and perhaps you can tell us whether you like networking or not?
Absolutely. So my name's Helen O'Dowda. I'm based in Ireland, about an hour's drive from Dublin. I've worked in marketing for about 10 years now. I did a degree in marketing in Manchester, and that's how I know Trang. So I suppose my history of marketing and networking, I've been networking all my life, and I think the key for me was really networking before I started my career, before I actually embarked on my marketing career. It's very important, I find, in my career to kind of network with cohorts, you know, colleagues that you have met through university, colleagues that you meet through networking events, business owners as well. I think that that's very key. If you know any business owners at home, through your circle of family or friends, I always pick their brains, you know, how do you sell your product? How do you do this? And it kind of helped me formulate some ideas, and it helped me get to know a lot of people and network with people. I continuously do it all the way throughout my career, and it's been very beneficial.
Yeah, thank you. If I could just ask Trang the same question, so if you would like to say a few things about yourself and also whether you like networking or not.
So my name is Trang, and I suppose you guys know me already. I've been working in marketing for about 5 years now. I started my career as soon as I graduated in Vietnam, and I've been in the UK for 4 years. I did a marketing degree with Helen, and I'm working for the Department for International Trade, Northwest, and in the marketing department as well. I think networking is really important. I think for me, networking was the first networking encounter that I went through was a really eye-opening moment for my life, and also my professional career. I think it pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it was really good for me to earn some of the soft skills, interpersonal skills, and it's really good for me to learn and network, not just to know people, but to learn from them, not just industrial knowledge as well, but also skills that you could learn about to develop your personal identity. Yeah.
I actually love the fact that you both like networking, because I personally, actually, when I started, when I was at university and started networking, I just didn't like it very much. I didn't like going to these networking events, to be honest, and it usually happens in the evening, which meant that I would probably not get home until about 9-10 o'clock, and you'd be quite tired as well, right? So you have to walk around, and you have to actually try to chat with people. And I used to think, oh, this is so dreadful. I don't like it very much. But throughout the years, as I started to do it more and more often, I actually felt like I was so much more comfortable doing it. And as I felt more comfortable doing it, I actually built more relationships. And as I saw more connections on my LinkedIn, or people that I know, when I go to these events, I can have a chat quite easily. I actually enjoy it more. So I think it's something that you also get to enjoy more as you can see the success that you started to have. And so that I think is very important in terms of trying to get people to like networking more, because I don't think that people naturally kind of feel like, not that many people actually naturally feel like networking straight away, but it's certainly something that you can learn along the way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves at certain networking events as well. you know, where it's very structured and it can be very frightening. But really the most value that I've got out of networking events is the time when the event is nearly over and you've made a friend, even just one friend. And that's really what networking is at the end of the day. It's forming these friendships, you know, and then you'll have them in your life and for something or other.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to stop I think we have 16 votes so far. And please pardon me because I'm still new to this. View results, I believe. Okay, so I think we have, of the 16 votes, we have 68% of the people that likes networking, and the 38% that just don't like networking at all. That's very interesting. So we have a lot of people that actually like networking on the live stream today, which is great. Now I think we will start with probably I would probably say that we can categorize the people that you want to network with into 3 categories. Category 1, I would say, are the people that work in the same industry or in the same sector as you. You know, even within the same sector, even within the same industry, you have various different sort of subsectors, and even within that subsector, you have people that work across different divisions. So I work in a bank, and I know very well that there are so many people that work in various different divisions in a bank, and so you want to kind of have that relationship with the people that work in the same sector or in the same division as you, but you kind of also want to, and this category also covers sort of recruitment agencies, so people that know those people that you might want to work for, and so that's probably the first category I can think of. The second category, I would say, are the mentors or the people that have worked for a number of years, but perhaps in other industries. So not necessarily, for example, I work in banking, but I have networked with yourselves who work in marketing, or I have also networked with people that work in consulting, and they have all been very helpful to me throughout my career. But that's probably the second category, I would say. And the third category, as you rightly pointed out, Helen, that's your cohorts. So it could be the people that are studying with you, so at university with you, or the people that you would have known from your internships. Actually, I still have friends from my internships, or, you know, people that have grown with you as you start your career, you know, the same junior people that joined at the same time with your graduate scheme, basically. And so I think it would be a good idea to start by going a good idea today to basically go into these different categories, and we'll talk more about these and how, you know, some of the approaches that we have seen so far could be, you know, some of the common mistakes that we see students make as they try to kind of build out their network. So with regards to the first category, which is people that work in the same industry or recruitment agencies in that industry, I think my first questions to you guys would be, some students believe that the main reason why you should be networking with these people is because you potentially would have them to put your name forward for a job in their organizations or any jobs that they know of in the industry, and you know, in the form of a referral. What's your view on that? What do you think? What do you think about that sort of purpose, if you like, of networking? Some people think it's very important.
Are you asking myself first?
Yeah.
I think in terms of kind of reaching out to people that work in the industry, it's not something that I ever did professionally or personally growing up, you know, through my career. I mean, I definitely networked with professionals to kind of gain insight into how they work, how they got to the level that they are at in their career. And it was really all about learning. It wasn't about taking something from it or expecting or hoping for a job. It was really just to kind of monitor and mirror what they're doing in their careers, to keep a tight eye on, you know, what is it that they did differently in their career and how did they enhance their CV? What do they do in their personal time, even what kind of extracurricular hobbies, which are very important to building your own career and spending your time wisely. I think it's definitely important to stay in contact with these people. When it comes to recruitment agencies, one of the things that I did was I definitely identified, and I think that it's key to identify what industry you'd like to work in, because obviously marketing is very relevant. You can apply it to a tech industry, to fashion, to hospitality. You can apply your skills, but if your mind is absolutely set on hospitality marketing, for example, what I have done is reached out to hospitality recruiters, and it's really important to do that at an early stage as well, and not to be afraid of being very transparent and being very honest. You know, this is my CV. It doesn't have much on it. If I'm still in university, for example, this is what's on my CV, but this is where I want to be in 5 years' time. Can you tell me, you know, what it is that I need to do to get there? Because at the end of the day, recruiters are dealing with candidates on a day-by-day basis. They know what a good candidate looks like. They know what their organizations that they work for are looking for. So it's absolutely key to kind of build those relationships from an early as you can, and just be really humble about it, and just say, you know, this is where I am now. How do I get to step B?
Yeah, Chang, what's your view on that?
I think I have a really similar view as Helen's. I think from networking with, from the point of view of networking with in the same industry as you are, I think it's important to learn from them, not expecting any kind of benefits, like instant benefit from them. But by learning from them, the skills that you learn from them, the mistakes that they shared with you, the lessons that they shared with you, these will help you to develop, and then develop your perspective about the career that you want. It will give us knowledge about, and then it will be the capital that you gain to kind of use more in your further networking opportunities, and even your application process, even in your interviews, even in your kind of assessment centers and things like that. And that these are the things that will help you, not the referrals. And I think in terms of referrals, some of the misconceptions are they think that the people and the professionals and the managers can refer you to a job within their companies, but that's not really the case. Some of these companies, especially the big companies, they have really strict laws, not laws, but more like principles in terms of equality, diversity and inclusion. So they have to go through a really strict audit annually in terms of from the government to meet these standards, and they have to go through these audits that shows that they have go through a strict recruitment, a strict and standardized process to candidates instead of referring from, you know, somebody that you know. So I don't think that's how it's going to work in terms of referral. So yeah, that's from the industrial professionals. That's from my view. In terms of recruitment agencies, I think Helen's views is really similar to mine. I don't really have anything else to add. Yeah, so that's from me.
Yeah, so on the point with referrals, I actually have a real personal story to share. I have a friend who I've known for 10 years now. We met at university, and you know, we've always been friends for those years, and so obviously known him very, very well. And he applied for an internal audit manager role at Bank of Ireland, and he messaged me saying that I've decided to apply. Do you reckon you can put in some sort of reference for me? And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I've known you long enough to actually, you know, recommend you for any job at all. And so I spoke to the head of corporate banking, so my big boss, and he was more than happy to do so. He almost immediately sent an email to the HR lady who looks after recruitment and asked her to reach out to me for a sort of like reference for this particular friend of mine. And the reaction that I got from the lady was, well, we operate on a sort of fair and on a sort of fair assessment of any candidates for any job at all. So we'll not be able to actually take into account your referral at all. And so that was that. I never got to actually put in anything. I would be more than happy to say the best things in the world about this guy, but I just couldn't do that. They would not allow me to. And so that's the way it works. Like Chang said, it's just it doesn't work that way. It's not that, you know, even if you potentially have very good personal relationships and they're more than happy to put their name forward, it doesn't always work that way. So I think you should, as Helen and Chang rightly pointed out, you should think about networking as a way of learning more about the sector, about the industry, about what they do on a daily basis, which is a very important thing, because I keep saying these things to the people that do my CV and cover letters counseling session. You can read all about these jobs and responsibilities on the internet all the time, but you will not be able to understand what actually goes on until you speak to someone who works there, and they have to face it on a daily basis, so they know exactly what it's like on the inside. So that's the best way of knowing what really goes on and whether it is the right job for you. So that, I think that is the main reason why you should be looking to network with people in the industry. But turning to recruitment agencies, you guys sort of like touched on it as well. But a lot of the students that we have spoken to have said that, you know, an issue they have is to kind of approach these recruitment agencies in the first place, to actually make them feel quite impressed with your profile, or feel like they are going to try to take you to the next level with a company. So how do you think they can actually approach them and try to really impress the recruitment agencies with their profile, rather than just really saying that, hey, this is my CV, can you have a look? How do you think they can actually impress them? Can I ask Helen? Yeah.
Sorry, absolutely. I think what's really important whenever you're building your own career and you're starting out on your career, especially if you're getting into marketing, you really need to know how to market yourself. And that's really number one. That's my key point of everything on this topic. You just need to market yourself. You have to be able to showcase your skills, your experience, everything. Like when you network with someone, when you shake someone's hand and you hand them a business card, or you reach out to a recruitment agency and they have your email address, you need to showcase everything that is about you online and put your best foot forward in that respect. So what I mean by that is marketing yourself in the right way. If you're keen on getting into hospitality marketing, your LinkedIn profile has to be saturated with articles and blogs about hospitality marketing. And if you haven't embarked on your career yet, if you haven't started, if you haven't had a job in hospitality marketing yet, that's fine. Watch some TV ads, read some magazines, write about the ads that you're seeing. And it's just to show the recruiters and anyone that you meet that you're a thought leader in that industry, that you have a brain of your own, that you're passionate about this. You know, it's really key to have a really good LinkedIn profile, to have a website, if you can do that yourself as well. Your social media accounts, you know, if you approach a recruiter or you go for an interview, you know, it's guaranteed that they're going to be looking at your social media profile. So to keep it completely personal is a personal choice, and that's fine. But I've always stressed that if you're very eager to get into one specific industry, make sure that anyone who views your social media profile is aware that, oh, she's very keen on this on a personal level as well as professional. You know, if you haven't got a position yet, if you're in university, volunteer, reach out to companies, ask a family, ask a friend, can I do your social media for 1 week, for a month, a bit of graphic design, a bit of a social media strategy. And these are things to add to your LinkedIn profile, or to add to your website, or to add to your CV. So when the recruiter sees you, you know, it's not good enough to just say, I'm studying and here is my CV. If you can back that up with, I know how to market myself, these are my thoughts, this is me on my website, on my LinkedIn, and extra hobbies as well. You know, another thing that worked very well for me in terms of the recruitment process is a portfolio. And it's something that a lot of people in the marketing industry don't have and don't do, because it's not very, you know, you don't have a huge amount of things that you can print off. A lot of them are campaigns and success stories that you may have. You know, marketing's a lot of trial and error, but to document them in a portfolio that you can submit to a recruiter, or to showcase in an interview, to say, I did this, I did that, here's some examples of work that I have done and that I was successful at. It's really key to do that, and that's part of marketing yourself as well.
Absolutely. Chang, would you like to add anything to that? from your own perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Helen's answer was brilliant. I think just finished my LinkedIn counseling session with some of the students today. I think it's absolutely vital for you to have a good LinkedIn profile. It plays a role just as your portfolio. It's like it's like something on the front line. Absolutely packed with everything that's relevant to the career that you're targeting. And also make sure when you approach a recruiter, try to make them feel like you talking to them as a being. Ask them their opinions, ask them for their perspectives and their insight on the career that you're targeting, the job roles. Ask them for their opinions as valued when you're speaking to them, and that's one of the tips as well. Yeah, for any networking occasions, not just with the recruiters. Yeah, that's for me.
Yeah, I think it's very important to build a relationship with a recruiter. So the headhunters that basically brought me the job with Bank of Ireland at the moment, we actually worked on about 3 different jobs before I landed this one. And I felt that it was very important at that point. He said to me, your profile already looks really good, but I wanted to find you the best job for you and the right one for you that you would potentially have a long career with them. And so and throughout the time I kind of felt the need to build a relationship with him, because actually when the first job didn't work out, and actually it was mainly that I didn't want to do that job, but when it didn't work out, I still had sort of very regular calls with him, probably not every week, but like every 2 weeks I would follow up with him. I'll probably drop him an email to say, hey Andrew, how's it going? Do you have anything that at the moment that you're looking at that we can potentially discuss? That's very important too. And of course, this is another thing that I want to actually talk about, which is that some of the students in the past that I have spoken to have kind of sort of very focused on their own sort of questions, or like the things that they are concerned with, and they were totally ignoring the importance of building a relationship with me, building rapport with me. So for example, there were no questions about myself, or no questions about what I do, and perhaps outside of work, for example, or any sort of interest outside of, or even interest within the industry. So, some just go straight to me and I say, do you have any jobs opening at the moment? Or like, do you know of any jobs at the moment? But no sort of questions around the edges to really build a relationship with me. I'm not sure whether you guys have had the same experience before with some of the mentees or the students that they have spoken, or people that you have spoken to. Perhaps Chang, you can start. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I'll start first. Yeah, this is really common. It happened a lot when I first not like advertised, but like shared a job post on my Facebook. So my previous company was having like a vacancy opening for a digital marketing assistant who would be working underneath me, so like reporting directly to me at the time. And I shared that job post on Facebook, and people would just bombard me with messages about the job, like could I apply for the job. They just sent the CV straight to me, and without any kind of even polite small talk. So yeah, that felt really blunt and tiring and exhausting to see people approaching you with that kind of attitude, and they just didn't care about you and just about whether they would be able to find that job, even though some people didn't really have the skills or knowledge that would match that job description, but they would just apply and hoping for some kind of lifeline. Yeah, so that happened a lot. Yeah.
Well, what's your view on that, Helen? Yeah.
I haven't experienced much of that, if I'm honest. kind of any jobs that I've gone for, if they were recruiting, I've probably not shared them maybe, or I wasn't aware, it was probably the HR departments that were recruiting. But I have had some mentees over the years, and I was very fortunate that they were just hugely hungry for knowledge and just to learn. You know, I think the real benefits of those relationships that I had was every encounter that I had with them, any kind of communication was really relaxed. It was just a cup of coffee, and I'd be quizzed with questions, you know, what do you do? How did you get there? You know, things like that. And I'd be able to kind of help them as long as they were transparent at the time. And I suppose I've been very fortunate in that regard. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think I sort of touched on this briefly earlier as well, but it's so important to follow up, isn't it? I quite often, and to be honest, I put my hands up to say that I'm not the best person in the world when it comes to following up with people. I probably have about 100 of those business cards that I've taken at these events, and I've never responded to them. But it is so important. You should try to, when you go to these networking events and you manage to see people and you manage to put your business card in front of them, or the other way around, if you're lucky enough to actually get their business card, it's so important to follow up with them by saying thank you, and that you potentially could ask them for a coffee, or some sort of talk or discussion afterwards. And I think there are more than enough people out there who would be willing to do so. I mean, but I personally have had people that have been happy to have a chat with me afterwards, even when I was a student. And so, but I think this is also an area where there's a bit of a common mistake with some of the students that we have worked with in the past, where we would have had one discussion with them, and they would just go. they were gone afterwards. I never heard from them again, or I never really knew what they were doing. I never really knew what they were up to. And sometimes I feel like, oh right, okay, I really want to follow up, but I guess it kind of falls on them to really initiate that discussion. Would you agree with me?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely 100%. I think like the most beneficial thing that I have found from any networking event was the unexpected friendships, I suppose, really. I went to one, I go to marketing conferences. I try to go to 2 in particular every year. Here in Ireland, it's called Amplify. And I would often go to them, but the relationships, we have speed networking events at these conferences. It's a 2-day conference. But the friendships and the relationships that I've taken away from them are the ones that are formed later on in the evening. One example was, it was a marketing conference. There was a lot of people there that own their own business. One in particular was a recruitment company, and he was there to learn how to market himself. But we ended up forming that relationship, and he gave me huge tips throughout the last few years about my career in terms of recruitment. So yeah, it's definitely very beneficial.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, with that, I think we can sort of move on to the next category, which is mentors, but like from outside the industry that you want to apply for. So, for example, people that, for example, yourselves, you work in marketing, and you want to potentially expand your network into other industries, or people of different genders, for example. It's also very important. I personally find it very important to have mentors, both as a man and both female and male mentors. I found that very, very helpful throughout my career. But I guess something that we have noticed with some students is that they view it as not so important to have mentors from outside their industries, because they don't necessarily feel like they're going to learn a lot from other industries, those that they don't work in. What's your view on that? What do you think about that?
Is this to me or Trank?
Yeah, to yourself.
So I think from a personal level, I've had mentors over the years. I've worked in a range of different industries throughout my marketing career. But at the moment, and for the last few years, it's been hospitality marketing alone. And I think the most beneficial mentors that I have had are people within the same industry. And that's just for me. And that's because at different levels of your career, you need a different kind of mentor. So it's really good to hear from someone who has done everything, within your current field, within your current industry, and they're at the top level. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of see the full ladder of where you want to go and where you're progressing to. So that's been really beneficial for me. I haven't had many that were outside my industry, and that's only because of my thirst for knowledge of the industry that I wanted to get into. And I just personally felt that I would gain more from that, because every industry is different. You know, in hospitality marketing, it's a very 50-50 with traditional and digital marketing. So there's a lot to learn as you progress in that kind of industry. But I think that if you're going to get something from it, I think absolutely, it really, it's a relationship at the end of the day. If you're given a mentor from a completely different industry, and the relationship doesn't click, or you really feel like you're not going to learn, then you're not going to learn. You can't force that. But you'll know that pretty straightforward once you've started speaking to them, whether there's something to be gained from that relationship.
Absolutely. And Jan, would you like to echo? Would you echo that?
Yes, I would, absolutely. There's only one thing I want to add is that some of the students, they don't really know for sure the career direction that they want to go for. So it's sometimes it's good to have mentors in different industries. There's things you can learn from this industry, one industry that you can't learn from the other, and mentors, they can teach you more than just industrial knowledge. They can teach you about just thought leadership, just critical thinking, logical thinking, and interpersonal skills, any other skills that you can learn. Just there's always things to learn from people, and like Helen said, you know that what you will learn from this relationship as soon as you talk to them.
Yeah, I personally, well, actually, my other half, my husband, works in a completely, well, not completely different industry, but he works in consulting, and specifically technology consulting. And but I personally view him as a mentor for me as well, because even though he works in a completely different industry, I have learned so much from him, just in terms of how I basically would manage my relationships. And I also sort of understand from their perspective, because, you know, consultants, they look at things in a much more kind of big picture way, as compared to, you know, sometimes, especially in my field of work, you tend to look at the details and you're very much focused on just the niche area that you work in. But consultants, they are a much sort of big picture people. And so for me, having someone in consulting like my husband to help me out has been massively helpful, and it has helped me. And actually I heard from a friend of mine that, you know, ever since you've been with him, you completely changed from the way that you think about the world. And I was just so happy to hear that. So you certainly would benefit from those relationships with people from outside your immediate industry. But you sort of mentioned that you have had mentees before, Helen. And what do you think are the keys to a successful mentee-mentor relationship? What is the key to, what are the keys to success here?
I think the first thing probably for me would be communication, just having regular contact and not being afraid to reach out to your mentor when you need some guidance. And the other two key points really are transparency and just complete honesty. You know, some people, you can go into a relationship with a mentor and you might be intimidated, or you might be nervous, or you may not be fully true to yourself and being totally honest in, you know, everything, all the questions that you want to ask. There's going to be a lot of questions from a mentee. And I think it's really important to just be completely transparent, and just put your hands up and say, I have no idea what this means. I have no idea what that means. Can you help? Can you guide me? So I think they're the key things: communication, transparency, and honesty for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Chang, I know you have quite a few mentees, and you've been very successful with them, as you have guided them throughout their sort of early part of their careers, but also sort of trying to crack into marketing. What do you think is important to have in a mentoring relationship?
Yeah, I think I'll echo what Helen just said, and also just complete hunger for knowledge. You should be approaching a mentor because you want to learn some sort of knowledge from them, not just because you want to have an instant benefit, or make use of or abuse that relationship in a way that you think that would benefit you, in a way that's not innocent, in a way. I'm not sure how to say that, but yeah. And just have respect and patience, and yeah, and constant follow-up, not like every day, but could in a few weeks maybe drop a message, asking, checking in on them, see if they're okay, maybe just sometimes just for a chat, not just because you want an answer for a question. Maybe sometimes just a chat would be good enough. Yeah, I think some of the
I think you hit the nail on the head there. I'll probably say from my own experience, some of the things that you could definitely do to make sure that you have a good mentoring relationship would be that you want to be very proactive. You want to be kind of leading the conversation, because you're seeking out the mentor, basically. You're trying to get them to work with you. So you have to be the one that is very active in terms of, suggesting time. So like you can say, you can go into the relationship saying that, can I just suggest that we meet, or we have, conference call like this, or, best to meet in person. You can always have conference calls like this, every month or every 2 months, depending on your schedule, but definitely it's something that you should suggest. And once you've done that, you should put it in the diary and actively remind the mentors of that, because, they have a lot of things going on with their life, and having a mentoring relationship is something potentially is just an add-on adjacent to what they do on their daily basis. So it is something that you should actively remind your mentor of. You should also try to set out the objectives from the start. So you go into the relationship and you say, these are the things I'm looking to really get from you in terms of your guidance throughout this time of my life, whether it is finding a job or how can I get a promotion. Some people ask for pay rises and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely set out the objectives and how you can work together to achieve those objectives. Next up, I think it's so important to take notes. I keep saying to all the students, it's so important to take notes. You should go into these meetings and make sure that you have your pen and paper or your phone and put down everything that you chat with each other, rather than just having coffee talks are really great, but at the same time, you just have to really make sure that everything that is discussed between yourselves, you remind yourself of what's going on, and you kind of like set out exercises for yourself. So you say, this week we're going to meet and we're going to say that we'll talk about a certain objective, and then by such and such time you're going to try to achieve that objective. And you have to take notes in order for yourself to remember that. So those are the kind of things that I feel like it's very important for a mentee to really drive the mentoring relationship to success. But I think we are sort of doing relatively well on time, and we're now sort of talking. We're gonna wrap up with the last category, which is cohorts. And Helen, I think you mentioned this earlier as well, that you so value the relationship that you have built with your cohorts. Could you talk to us a bit more about those relationships and how it has helped you throughout your career?
Absolutely. To be honest, when you're talking about networking and relationships with my cohorts are the most valuable that I've had in my career. And especially, I suppose, given the fact that my career is marketing, there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to campaigns, when it comes to, working with websites consistently. So whenever you study, if you're doing your degree, whatever it is that you're studying, you're meeting these people and they're about to embark on a career that's going to be quite similar to yours at the same time that you're embarking on your own career. So inevitably you are growing together. So these are relationships with people that you can absolutely relate to throughout your career. So I think it's really important to keep these people. Everything that I've studied in my career, I've taken about 2 or 3 people from each course that I've done, and followed me through to my career. And we would often bounce things across with each other. I'll give you just one example. There was a company that I was working for last year, and it was an e-commerce website, and we had problems on the e-commerce website. I placed some heat maps on the website. We were tracking all the visitors daily. I was reporting on them weekly. you know, who was coming to the website, where were they falling off, what buttons were they clicking, and why they weren't buying the products. This was something that I put things forward. We trialed some things, it didn't work. So I made some calls to some colleagues, some cohorts that I'd worked with in the past and studied with. And just to kind of bounce those ideas across with them, they were shedding some new lights on, you know, on the issue that I had. And it's just brilliant to have those people in your life that you can ask, because, you know, without those relationships, you can't, there's not that many people that you can bounce things across with. So, and in terms of careers as well, if you're progressing in your career, or like you were talking about earlier, asking for a raise, or if you want to move to a different position, or, you know, anything, you can bounce these across with the people that you've studied with before. So they're really beneficial to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally echo that. Chang, would you?
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. I think for me, a big percentage of my network is for my cohort. So, for example, an example is Helen, and we studied together. We've been keeping a good relationship, and the example is today is one of the event that I could ask her to kind of come and join in and then share the insights with you guys. And not just that, I've been talking to her a lot and asking for kind of knowledge, and learn from her a lot from the marketing perspective as well. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, I actually, so within my industry, but also and in with law firms, for example, they have in the recent years they have launched an initiative called Next Generation. So it's usually bringing people at kind of more junior level together. And at first I saw these adverts for the Next Generations event, and I used to think, free drinks, I'll definitely be there. But that was my thought at first, but then actually I managed to build this network with these guys in the Next Gen initiative, and now it's branched out so quickly that, you know, people are trying to because people move around, you know, they bring the relationship with them. They go to another firm and they say they ring me, they pick up the phone to me and say, hey Helen, I've moved to another firm now, and would you like to work with us? And the other way around, so we continue with that relationship. And of course, you know, we move up the ranks as well, so, you know, of course you will get promoted eventually, and as you get up the ranks together, you kind of still maintain that relationship. And because it has gone on for so long, you know, that relationship will be much better than, you know, someone you probably just meet for the first time, and more business will come out of it. So I think it's very important with the cohorts and the people around sort of your age or your year of joining a firm, or yeah, very, very important indeed. So with that, I think we have managed to go through the different categories of people that you should network with, and so I think the thing that we will try to get here, especially with regards to cohorts, is that you some of the students we've spoken to in the past, they tend to work on by themselves. They don't really sort of have, you know, work together. They haven't worked together with the rest of the students in the same universities or other students in other universities, and that is a real shame, because you can totally work together and share tips with each other as you try to crack this. It's a very challenging process. We all know that, you know, the economy is also experiencing a lot of difficulty. So when you work together, you potentially are going to make it much less challenging for each one of you. So why not try to work together, share tips with each other, or practice with each other, whether it's interviews or tests, or, you know, try to just really try to pull together as a unit, and you can definitely you know, improve yourself, but as well as the other people in the team. So I guess with that, I'm going to launch the next poll question for everyone, which is, with which group out of the 3 groups that we have mentioned today do you think you should network with? You should network more regularly. So again, the question is, with which group do you think you should network more regularly? Okay, so we're going to leave that for now, and I think we're going to talk about finally some of the struggles that people have and some of the reasons why people would potentially struggle with when it comes to networking. You know, from your experience, Helen, why do you think people struggle with networking, and specifically networking effectively?
I think that there's a lot of, I mean, when you say the word networking, it's clinical. You know, what it really is it's just chatting, it's relationship building, it's forming friendships and professional friendships. You know, so I think that there's going to be a lot of nerves when people hear the word networking. You know, if someone tells you you have to walk into a room and network, there's a lot of pressure. But I think it's just stripping it back to realize that you're just a person talking to another person. You know, and to try and just eliminate those nerves in that way. Like I said before, every networking event that I've come away from, I'd say at least like 95% of my relationships that I've taken away from networking events have happened, you know, during a coffee break or happened after an event, a conference. So, and that's when you're really relaxed, you know, that's when you're going for a little stroll outside, or you're just pouring yourself a coffee. So it's just to remember that, you know, you're in it to learn as well, and to build friendships. What can you take away from this that isn't going to be, as Trang mentioned before, it's not going to be with another agenda in mind. It's to learn from one another. You know, it's what can you gain and what can you give. You know, when you walk into a room, there is going to be things that other people are going to take from you. A lot of people will want you for their jobs. A lot of people will want you for your knowledge. So it's to remind yourself that, you know, to be more confident and that you have things to give as well.
Absolutely. And Chan, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely. There's one thing I like to also affirm here is that you might think you're the only person that's nervous in that room, but the other people might also be nervous as well. Other people might also be really scared of like talking to strangers, starting a conversation and things like that. So yeah, just start a conversation spontaneously by just asking how they are and things like that, and be spontaneous and be comfortable and thinking, and network at your pace. So some people might be speed dating, but you might not be comfortable with speed dating. So just set a goal. Well, I might want to talk to 1 to 2 people today. So yeah, I'll talk to 1 or 2 people and maybe form a good relationship with them instead of speed dating like other people do. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah. So that's my tips.
Absolutely. So I'm going to stop that poll now. And so we have 12 voters, and please, guys, please do interact with us, because it's very important for us to actually know what's going on with you guys and how you feel about things. And we're going to tweak our session based on your feedback. So do interact, do try to interact with us. So the result I've got so far is that no one wants to network more with their cohorts, unfortunately. And half of the people want to network more with professionals in the STEM sector, and the other half want to network more with the people mentors in other industries. That's very interesting results. And I also have one last polling question for everyone online now, which is exactly what we just talked about. Why do you think you struggle to network effectively? So again, the question is, why do you think you struggle to network effectively? Now, the options are sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so the options you have are, number 1, you don't want to, or you don't like to interact with other people. And I think this is typically with people that are considered to be introverts. And we get this question pretty often, actually. So the likes of, a bit of an introvert and I don't really like to, I find it really hard to communicate with people. And I think my view of this is that you don't really always have to be someone that is an extrovert to be always, smiley, or always, try to be friendly. You don't really always have to be that sort of type of person in order to network effectively. Even if you are an introvert, and an example I have is comedians. They tend to be, they have to really try to build up people around them to like them, but some of them admit themselves that they are introverts. So the likes of Jimmy Carr, you know, he has said in the past that he's an introvert, but he's one of those comedians that is on TV all the time. So and he doesn't seem to have any nerves around with that. So I think the importance is that you build a network of people around you. You know, you don't have to have millions of people as your connections on LinkedIn. You just have probably 10, 20 people that you go to directly, and those relationships really mean something to you both, right? They are, as long as those relationships are very meaningful and you can rely on those guys, that's the most important. You don't need 100 or 200, a million of them. You just need the key people, the core people that you can go to. I think that's very important. The next option is that you are shy and you find it very hard to initiate a conversation, which is something that you guys already mentioned. The next thing that I would really like to get your view, Helen, is you don't understand or you don't follow the conversation when you listen to other people. What's your view on that? Like, why do you think people struggle, especially people from other countries like ourselves? Why do you think we might struggle with that? And what can you do to tackle it? What can you do to address it?
So do you mean if someone is networking, so if I'm networking with someone from a different country and they don't understand English as their first language?
No, it's more kind of don't understand or follow the conversation. So let's say we're talking about something of popular culture, or you're talking about something that is quite specifically English or Irish, or something that they probably are not so aware of from a cultural perspective, then why do you think that might be a struggle, and what can you do to help with that?
I think that in Europe in general, we're very, happy to kind of joke around and, joke about ourselves as well. So to be totally honest, if you're having a conversation and you're not following or you don't understand, it's absolutely fine to just say, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. That's absolutely fine. People find that endearing. It's absolutely fine. If you're not following, or just to ask questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've done that so many times in the past as well. So I totally agree with you. Chang, actually, this question is for you. The other options I have here in the poll is that you don't have the language skills to open a conversation, to initiate a conversation. And the other thing is you don't actually know how to say something that could draw attention or generate interest from other people into you. How do you go about that? What do you think are the key things to try to tackle that?
If you don't really have the basic language skills to start a conversation, I think that will be a big struggle. But just start with what you have. Start with the surrounding, what kind of event you're attending, what you don't understand from the event, because if you don't have the basic language skills to understand the programming, the content of the event, you might be able to, ask the person next to you, and that might be a good conversation starter. Ask them, like, I don't really understand this bit of the program today. Would you be able to understand? Would you be able to explain that to me? And then start a conversation that way. Or if it's a networking event, maybe start by just asking how they are, where they're from, what industry they're working in, and then ask about their industry. Ask about their work experience, their positions, what do they find interesting about their positions or their sector and things like that, and then maybe introduce about yourself and that you want to learn about certain aspects of their career, things like that. Just start basic. I think that would be a good way to start if you don't really have the advanced language skills, things like that, and help you learn along the way.
Yeah. I would definitely echo that. I also think that it's so important to read more. And I keep saying this to the people that that we speak to as part of this project, that you need to read more, and you need to understand the culture. You need to try to really immerse with the culture and try to understand, you know, what people are, you know, that's a way of you trying to understand what people are talking about. And so you might actually get into it, for example. So, you know, people have been talking about Tiger King this whole 2 weeks, and I managed to watch it, and now I can actually talk to people about Tiger King, right? So that is the kind of thing that you actually have to do in order to really try to get into a conversation and make that conversation really count. So I guess with that, we are going to stop the poll, and we've got 18 votes so far. So thank you very, very much. We got the results, and it's interesting. So you can see the highest bar is on you are shy and you find it very hard to have a conversation. The next is you don't know what to say to draw the attention or generate interest. Next one is you don't have the language skills, and then followed by you don't want to interact with people, or you just don't understand or follow the conversation. So I think you know, trying to break through that, trying to have the confidence to actually go out and speak to people means a lot of things. It means that you have to really be well prepared, and you have a combination of things that we mentioned earlier. So the language, the culture, you understand what's going on, and you have thought leadership, like you guys have mentioned throughout, things in the industry that you are interested in or you want to discuss with people. So I guess what's from us is going to be very helpful is something that could potentially help you with your first steps, whether it is attending these networking events or writing emails to recruiters or companies to introduce yourselves, or introducing yourselves to mentors, for example, on social media, those kind of things. We are going to launch a pop-up workshop, which will be, it's pop-up because it's not going to be regular. It's probably going to be something like every other month or so. And that's going to be the first one on the 3rd of May, where we are going to talk about exactly what it is you should write or you should be saying at these events, or you know, the kind of right mannerisms that you should have in order to really try to generate the interest from the people at these events, or when you first meet someone that you have not met before. So these kind of things are going to be hopefully very important in order to build up your confidence, and the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to feel, exactly the way that I said it earlier. I didn't actually feel so comfortable at first. I felt so out of my comfort zone, but as you build up your confidence, you're going to be able to do it more. And so hopefully once you've attended the session, you will actually feel more confident to go out there to talk to more people, and the more people you talk to, the more confident you're going to feel. So with that, I think if you guys would like to, we're going to advertise it, and if you would like to attend, please do join us. That will be on the 3rd of May from 3 to 4:30 p.m, same time as today. So with that, I think we are going to go to questions. But of course, thank you to Helen and Chang throughout the conversation today, and hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as I did. But let's have a look at some of the questions that we've had so far from the audience. So let me start with if you guys who is still the people that are still online, would you like to, if you have any questions, please feel free to put this on the chat box, but also on Slido. I'm going to mention it in Vietnamese as well. Các bạn nếu có câu hỏi nào thì các bạn có thể dùng Slido và các bạn điền số là 42214 để đặt câu hỏi, hoặc là các bạn có thể để lại câu hỏi ở trong phần chat box của Zoom. Okay. Right, so I'm going to go through some of the questions that we have here. We're going to go through some of the questions that we have here to you guys. So the first question is, how can applicants create networking naturally in virtual events and remain those relationships in British culture?
Yes.
Would you, Helen, would you like to tackle that?
I suppose, like we touched on before, the Zoom call was the virtual conferences that are taking place at the moment. There's going to be some of them. There probably always was some of them that a lot of us, I would be quite unaware of. But I think that if you can attend some of them, that's fantastic. But in terms of networking, for me, like I mentioned before, if you're getting into the industry of marketing, you really need to market yourself, and that in itself will bring, will bring about relationships with people, especially on LinkedIn. If you're publishing articles, publishing blogs on your website, on your social media pages, make sure you're reaching out to other people as well. So if you're writing an article on LinkedIn and you're sharing it, there might be someone that works for the company that you're discussing, or so someone that is relevant to that industry or that topic that you're discussing, and that can build relationships. That's a form of networking as well, that's online.
Absolutely. And I think, Chang, you have a lot of experience with social media and how to manage that. What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think, before you send an invitation connection, that's the first step of forming a relationship. Try to maybe send a message attached with the invitation connection invitation as well. Introduce yourself. Make sure that you connect with them, and you make sure that you tell them who you are before you connect with them. That's one thing. I think on Zoom it's quite difficult. It depends a lot on the host, and the nature of the event. So is it a networking event, or is it like a conference, or is it like a webinar or a live stream? Then it depends on the nature of the event as well. If it's a meeting, if it's a networking event, you can maybe request the host to try to create breakout rooms where you can talk to maybe 2-3 people at the same time, and trying to maybe speed dating, networking that way. So virtual Zoom networking events are quite special in a way, but social media networking, it's absolutely up to you and your skills. So yeah, and you can do it on your own time as well. So yeah. Absolutely.
So the next question we have is how to really build a deep connection with seniors or mentors in the industry, because we don't often have many things in common to talk about. I think this is a really good question, actually. Jan, would you like to start?
I think one of the common things that you can talk about is the passion for the industry, because you mentioned that the mentor is in the same industry that you're interested in. So the interest is the common thing that you can talk lots and lots about. And within that, there's knowledge that you can learn. So everybody likes to talk about themselves. So ask them about their knowledge and their experience and their interest, and how, like Helen said, how they progressed in their career, so that they could get into this position, and what mistakes have they made that you could learn from, what lessons they can share with you, things like that. It's not about you talking, it's about you making them talk so that you could listen and learn, and maybe trying to along the way trying to insert some of your thought leadership or your critical thinking into the conversation. Make them feel like you're listening and you're thinking, you're not just passively hearing what they say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So an example I can give you is that I work in banking. So naturally, I look out on what's happening to the economy, or I kind of have a lot of interest in what's going on from a macroeconomic perspective. So my joke is usually my interest is interest rates. So anyone who comes up to me and have a conversation about interest rate, and want to have a conversation with me about interest rate, because it's so difficult to tell, right? You don't actually know what interest what interest rate is going to be in the next month, let alone the next few months or a whole year. So it's so important when you come up to me and you potentially say, well, my view is that it's going to go down even further because the COVID-19 impact is still unknown, and you never know what's going to happen. So the government has to try, the Bank of England has to try to do more from that perspective to drive up the business, to drive up the economy. So I think it's so important to really think wider than just, oh, I just don't know anything about the industry, so I have nothing to say to you about. It's more about, you know, the industry connects you much wider into what's going on overall, but also what are the current affairs. I read the news a lot. I read every day. I start with reading the Telegraph, for example. So you read more, and you know what's going on, and you can actually talk about that with the people that you try to connect with, rather than thinking, oh, I just have to really know what's going on with the industry so I can have a conversation. So yeah, so definitely build up those knowledge of build up the knowledge of the overall economy, of what's going on, current affairs, and you could definitely have something to talk to them about. Another question that I have on here is which questions that we should approach people on LinkedIn to demonstrate that we are keen on learning them and looking for a long-term relationship. So I guess if I can answer this question, I'll probably say that it's within the scope of today's session. It will be very difficult to run you through exactly what to say, but perhaps if you have a chance to be part of the pop-up workshop, we are going to talk much more in detail what you need to say, or what are the things that we would recommend you say when you reach out to people in the first place, but also to follow up with people, especially recruiters and potential employers on social media. So that's certainly something that we can go in more detail at the pop-up workshop. Another question that we have, an interesting question we have here is that how can a mentee give back to the mentor? I feel like I couldn't give back anything to mentors. I am only a student with no working experience. What's your what do you think, Helen?
I think that's, you know, it's a relationship at the end of the day. If they're happy to mentor you, that all they really want back is some gratitude. You know, anyone that I've gained any wealth of information from throughout my career, I've been grateful. You know, you can always send a gift, you know, a bottle of wine, anything, if you wanted to really go that step. But I think it's if someone is giving you their time to teach you something that they know, I think it's important to just be appreciative of that, to ask the right questions, and to take what you can from it and be appreciative of it, really. I think that's all you can do.
Absolutely. Chan, would you agree with that, or would you have anything to add?
I would absolutely agree. So for all types of relationships, in general, even working relationships with your team members, with your colleagues, with your bosses, appreciation and recognition are the key to maintaining a relationship. So make sure, because they have agreed to mentor you, and without any kind of payback whatsoever. So all you need to do is just showing appreciation and recognition. So whatever achievements you've made, thanks to the mentoring, just let them know that you appreciate them and you recognize that I have made this achievement because of your help, and thanks to your support and things like that. Let them know that you know and you appreciate their help. So yeah.
Absolutely. We just had another question, which I think is a good follow-up to that one. Someone just asked, you know, if you are a very busy person and you've got a lot going on with your life, you know, what's your view on having a mentor? And, you know, do you feel like it is a bit of it's quite bothersome to have a mentor? to have a mentee to look after when you already have so many things going on in your life. My personal view is that if I was to, I'm sort of very careful when it comes to you know, selecting people to be my mentees or starting a mentor-mentee relationship, because I personally don't like to overpromise if I don't have the time to, and especially I think about my schedule and I feel like I'm not going to have the time to really dedicate to this person. I'm not going to say yes. And a lot of work actually is going into Mentis Hub, where I really try to help out as many people as I can. But from a mentor-mentee relationship, it's much deeper and it takes time. So I don't want to overpromise. But at the same time, I think this is something that I mentioned earlier. You need to be, as a mentee, you need to be more proactively asking for help and setting things out from the start. So you can say, well, look, if I've already agreed to be your mentor, I don't really want to basically spend the time to lead you throughout. You should say to me, look, I'm going to set up a schedule so that I will have a chat with you every 2 weeks, or sorry, every 2 months or so. And I'll be more than happy to, because if I already agreed to be your mentor, then I know that I'm going to set the time for you, right? But I'm not going to actually be putting things into the diary for the both of us. So you need to actually say to me that, right, so every Saturday in 2 months, I'm going to give you a call, for example. That's something like that. You know, I would totally be happy with that. I don't know if it is the same for Helen. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. Absolutely. I mean, if you're happy enough to help and to be a mentor in the first place, it is taking time out of your own life. So you need to, you know, the mentee needs to completely identify what it is that they need and what they're looking for out of this relationship, so that you can, you know, so that no time is wasted, so that you can schedule your conversations, as you mentioned, maybe every second Saturday or whatever suits you both. But that each time spent on those conversations are valuable, and that you're both, or that the mentee is taking something away from it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Just a final question on mentor, which is on our chat box. Someone has asked, what kind of questions should I ask to build rapport with my mentor or mentors without being intrusive?
I think my personal opinion is that you need to be transparent with your mentor. I don't think there's any harm in, you know, telling them that you've no idea what such and such is, because they're there to guide you, they're there to help, they're not interviewing you for a job. If you found a mentor and that mentor you're asking, and they're there and they've agreed to be your mentor, if you have them for the wrong reasons, if you've picked them from a company that you're hoping they'll hire you into eventually, then that's bad from step one. You shouldn't have that relationship. As Trang mentioned in the beginning, you know, if you want a mentor-mentee relationship, you're there to learn, and you have to have no expectations that person's going to refer you for a job. So it's just, you have to be transparent with them. You know, they're there to help you, so you ask what you need to ask to get the information you need.
Absolutely. Trang, would you like to add anything else to that?
That's 100% true.
Yeah,
from my
totally.
Yeah.
So I am completely got smacked with the number of questions that have gone through. We've got quite a long list of questions here, but I'm also conscious that it's 4:20 now, so we probably have time for 2 more questions, and we're going to wrap up the session here. So I'm going to read out a question, which is more specifically to me and Trang. Someone has said that the biggest limitation for them is on their English skills, and they have asked us for our experience in terms of practicing our British accent. So Trang, would you like to start first?
I'd say my tips are, so when I first came to England, I started part-time jobs immediately. So that's one of the ways you could learn and practice your English and find the time to actually speak to English people, and then pick up the accent from them. Not the accent, not so much the accent, more like the way that they talk. Their language is a representation of culture. So yeah, So that helps you understand them a bit better, helps you practice and try to speak to them more like guest that comes to the restaurant, not just like trying to serve them, but more like have a chat with them, get some more tips, things like that. And then friends, me trying to speak to them more. So yeah, like they are within your, so yeah, speak to them, network with them, learn a lot from them, and then they don't really judge you because you go to the same class with them, and then it's one of the like mandatory things that you have to do when you go to class and go to uni, that you have to do teamwork, team project. So you have to speak to them. That's one of the ways that you can practice English. And then find friends, makes a lot of friends. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. On my side, I'd probably say I watch a lot of TV series. I, when I was younger, people used to say to me, "You watch a lot of TV. How did you do so well?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm learning as well from watching TV." So I watch a lot of TV series, and of course there are so many good British series out there that I can totally recommend to you to watch. And I also spend a lot of time to read. So one thing that I actually found was so important to me was that I would read things out loud. And at first it was quite embarrassing. I used to basically lock myself up in my room and just not interact with people whilst I'm reading out loud, because I don't want people to listen to me whilst I'm doing that. And at first it was quite awkward at first, but then I started to do it more and more often, and I felt much more comfortable doing that. And by doing so, I sort of felt that I was so much more comfortable speaking English in general, but also speaking it in the right way. And whenever I made a mistake saying something, I just don't know how to pronounce a word. And it still happens these days, right? I would still go I would go on Google and I would look up for the words and I'll say pronounce. And Google is great these days, right? You can basically just hit the play button and you can hear someone who could say it to you in British accent, and you can just repeat it with yourselves. And so that was that. I totally felt that I improved my English so much better afterwards. And of course, the more people that you work with, the more people that you interact with, that you have to speak English to, the better your English is going to, the more your English is going to improve. So yeah, so those are the tips that we can give in terms of English. I guess if we can have one last question from the audience, which is that how do I utilize networking in the right way to find internships and grad scheme, so graduate schemes? Helen, if I could just come to you first.
I think now I could be wrong on this. There might be a lot of other ways to find this, but to my knowledge, the best way to find internships and graduate schemes, they're all online. There's a lot of platforms online, if you search in the right places. Absolutely. There's going to be very job specific ones as well, and industry specific websites as well. But then reaching out to some recruiters as well, you might be able to get guidance from them as well. But online, I mean, everything is online.
Yeah. Chan, would you have any where else that you would say you should look or speak to certain people?
So I don't think networking will help you find graduate schemes or like internships for like big companies where they put schemes on a massive scale. So the only ways to find is online. So some of the really good websites that Helen Huang has suggested before was that the Target Jobs and some of the platforms that you can find graduate schemes. But networking is not the way for you to find or get referrals for positions, because they are always organized in a strict following a strict recruitment process. So yeah, I don't think networking will help you with that, but networking will help you in terms of gaining some knowledge, some kind of skills, and some industrial knowledge and other knowledge, and commercial awareness and cultural awareness, where you can which you can apply along the way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if I could just wrap up with that, a lot of universities have got career fairs. So it's those things where they have, or actually there's also Milk Round, which is another very famous provider of career fair, and Target Jobs, which you mentioned earlier, Chang, also has their career fairs into different industries. So if you attend these career fairs, it's also a very good opportunity for you to learn about the different companies within the industry. So I think one of the things that the students might struggle with is to actually know who are the people to apply for. So you don't actually know who are the main competitors or who are the main companies that are based in that industry, or even if you are looking to go into, you don't actually know which industry you want to go into yet, then you want to check out the different options. And so career fair is a really good start for that. You can go to these sessions, people would have their own stands, they would talk about their companies, but also quite typically there would be people from the HR department who would walk you through the steps in terms of from a recruitment perspective. So how can you apply for an internship? How can you apply for a graduate scheme? You can talk to them there at the event. So definitely, if your universities or Milk Round or Target Jobs have those events, make sure you're there, and try to sign up for those events as early as possible, and make sure that you have active discussions during those events. I've seen some students who come to those events and they just find it so hard to really blend in or ask questions. Just really try to walk around and talk to people, make the most of the time there. So yeah, I guess with that, thank you so much to you both for being part of the session today. I thought it was very, very insightful, and I learned a lot for myself as well. So thank you so much. Also, thank you to the audience members. Many of you are already sort of cold followers of Metis Hub, so thank you so much for all this time being part of our project. But also, hopefully today, as we launched the interaction tool, you also found that very useful for you to put forward questions, but also being part of our polling surveys, for example. So with that, thank you very much everyone for being part of the session today, and hopefully you found that insightful, and we hope to see you again in other initiatives that Metis Hub is going to launch pretty soon. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.